Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel called IVD Manufacturing. So in today's video we are diving deep into one of the most important topics in the healthcare, which is the regulation of medical devices by the USFDA. Whether you are a healthcare professional, a medical device manufacturer, or just curious about how the FDA ensures safety and efficacy in the medical devices, this video is for only you. So before we go detail, let's first understand why the FDA's regulation of medical device is so critical. The FDA is responsible for ensuring that medical devices are safe, effective, and reliable before they reach the market. This device plays a huge role in diagnosing, treating, and improving the lives of a patient, so strict oversight is necessary. Now let's talk about what is the FDA role in the medical device regulations. The US Food and Drug Administration is the regulatory body that oversees the safety and efficacy of the medical devices in the United States. They are the one who ensure that any medical devices which are used in the US is properly tested and meets the required standard for the patient safety. So my friends, this is similar to the Indian CDCO who regulates the regulation of the medical devices which are been getting circulated into the Indian territory. Similarly, US FDA plays a same kind of role in the US territory. The FDA does not just regulate the medicines. It also plays a crucial role in the approval and monitoring of the medical devices, from simple tools like bandages to complex machine like MRI scanner or surgical implants. Part 2, FDA classification of medical devices. To understand how the FDA regulates the medical devices, it's essential to know that they classify device mainly into the three categories based on their level of risk to patient. This classification impacts the approval process and the level of oversight required judicially. So what are those classification of the medical devices? So there are mainly three classes of the medical devices, which is class 1, 2 and 3 respectively. They are classified in a similar manner how the Indian medical device is classified as per Indian MDR 2017. When I say similar classification, it means they are classified on the basis of risk category and the intended use. So the low risk devices falls under class 1, the moderate risk in class 2, whereas the high risk devices falls under class 3. Now let's talk about the definition of these classes. Class 1 devices are considered low risk and include things like bandages, manual wheelchairs, and tongue depressors. These devices are mainly subject to general controls but typically don't require pre-market approval from the FDA. When I say general control, it means there are few clauses of few section as per 21 CFR part 820 which complies for this class 1 devices, my friends. Whereas in class 2, which is the moderate risk, this device carry a higher risk and may require 510K pre-market notification to show how they are safe and effective as similar device which is already placed into the market. What are those examples such as infusion pumps, diagnostic imaging equipments? Now let's talk about the class 3 high risk devices. So the class 3 devices are the highest risk and require pre-market approval. This device must undergo the most rigorous testing before being getting approved. Examples such as the pacemaker, heart valves, and some cancer treatments. So my friends, the question comes, as you can see, that the FDA are classifying devices based on their risk level, and the higher the risk, the more extensive is the regulatory process. So you can imagine how the regulatory pathway is going to become more stringent when you're going to work on the higher classification of the medical devices, my friends. Part 3. The FDA approval process for the medical devices. Since we talk about the classification of the medical devices, now it's time to understand what are those regulatory processes by which I can bring my medical devices into the US market. So now let's talk about the FDA approval process for the medical devices. Depending on the class, the approval requirement can vary significantly. Point number 1, which is the pre-market notification 510K for class 2 devices. For many class 2, the manufacturer need to submit this 510K submission. This is the kind of notification to show that the new devices is substantially equivalent to a devices that is already legally marketed into the US territory. So I hope this is very clear and easily as understandable. But this is the faster process, but what happens, you need to ensure that the rigorous testing and documentation has been done when you opt for this pathway. Pre-market approval, which is termed as PMA, which is mainly for the class 3 devices. Such as like pacemaker, prostatic require this PMA, which is much more detailed and require a clinical trial to prove that the device is safe and effective. The process is often lengthy, but it involves the extensive data on the device upfront, mainly with respect to the design and development requirements such as the design, the manufacturing, and the clinical performance. So once your device is approved, it can be marketed and sold in the US, but the FDA continue to monitor its safety, my friends. So you need to keep in this mind. So when I say that the FDA is going to keep a vigilance, so part 4 comes into the picture. What is this part 4? The part 4 is none and all, it is the PMS and the monitoring. When I say PMS, it's a post-market surveillance and the monitoring. So what happens, my friends, even after the medical device is approved, the FDA is not going to stop regulating it. Post-market surveillance is another critical aspect of the FDA's regulation processes. Devices which are continuously monitored through mechanisms like adverse event reporting, device recalls, and inspection. If a device is found to be unsafe or ineffective, the FDA is going to take a strict action like issuing a recall or requires warning. So now let's talk about when there is a case of kind of recall. So part 5th is going to come into the picture, which is called as the MDR, the medical device reporting. Don't get confused with the medical device rule. It's a medical device reporting. So one key part of PMS is the MDR. So under the MDR regulation, the manufacturer, the distributor, the healthcare professional must report any device related adverse event or defects to the FDA strictly. So the system which helps the FDA to track any potential issue with the devices in real time and take swift action if unnecessary, such as issuing of the warning or recalling the products. So I hope you are able to understand. Now let's talk about the part 6, which is the FDA inspection and the compliance. So the another critical aspect of the FDA regulation is the inspection. The FDA is regularly going to inspect the medical device manufacturing facility and to ensure that they comply with the GMP. If company fail to follow this regulation, the FDA can issue warning letter, fines, or even remove the device from the market with the immediate effect. Compliance is key to ensure patient safety, my friends. So be careful in your mind, right? But why this FDA regulation matter for us? So why is the FDA regulation medical so important? Well, the medical devices have a direct impact on the patient health and the safety. The FDA ensure that only the devices that meet the strict standard for the safety and effectiveness make it to the market. Without FDA oversight, there will be the risk of untested or unsafe devices which will be going into the hand of the customer. Part 8, which is the conclusion and call to the action. In conclusion, the FDA regulation of the medical devices is a vital process that ensures patient safety and promotes the public health care. From classification to approval and from surveillance to compliance, the FDA is committed to maintaining the highest standard for the medical devices which are getting rolled up into the US market. Right? So, if you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more updates on the healthcare and the related topics. If you have any question about the FDA regulation or the approval processes, feel free to drop them in the comments and I would be happy to help you. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe and informed. Till then, take care. Bye bye.